The real screeners are here to let you guys know that the movie Sorry to Bother You is a thought-provoking, outrageous dark comedy that the trailer did not prepare you for.
This wildly inventive satire is a movie that could have been easily directed by someone like David Lynch or written by like Charlie Kaufman, but in this case it's directed by Boots Riley. It's also written by him, and this is his directorial debut, and it also stars Lakeith Stanfield, Tessa Thompson, Armie Hammer, and Danny Glover.
For this being a former rapper's first movie, that's impressive.
That's an impressive directorial debut, man.
Yeah, and if you guys know anything about Boots Riley's rapping from back in the day, he really comes with some politically charged ideas, which definitely translated into this movie.
Oh man, this movie takes you on a wild ride that doesn't let up, man.
It is, okay, so this movie is in your face. It is mind-blowing, guys.
It is unapologetic.
We went out of words to say. Let me just tell you that be prepared to think that someone slipped something in your drink at the theater.
Yes, it's an acid trip. So the basic plot of this movie involves a black man who basically is struggling to make ends meet, and the movie focuses on just all of the struggles that a minority, especially a black man, you know, has to go through and face in order to just, you know, climb up the corporate ladder, specifically in this movie.
And they make it a point to make sure that they let you know that it is white corporate America.
That's right. It's packed with different themes, and for one thing, it's a brilliant satire on how minorities, and specifically in this case black people, have to assimilate to white culture in order to make it, you know, which is an unfortunate reality. One of the things that happens in this movie is that in order for these, you know, black people to succeed, they have to start speaking like white people, right, or sounding like white people, right, and that's the only way that people will actually listen to them, and the only way that they'll progress, you know?
And you guys see that intro with Danny Glover talking about, you know, you can't just be any white person. You have to be a white person who, you know, has their bills paid and who has no worries in life, you know. And so that whole white voice part of this movie, in the trailers, they kind of make you think that that's kind of what it's mostly about, but really that is just one exaggeration of a million things in this film, because the film's really letting you know that what it does is it hyperbolizes everything about society to send a message.
Another example that is brilliantly portrayed in this movie is all the racial stereotypes that are you know, kind of satirized once again, from, you know, how the stigma with black people and drugs, for example, how they're, you know, the stereotype of weed smoking or cocaine use. Also the stereotype of, you know, black people being able to rap and being able to
there's one scene in there that's extremely telling, and it's like a slap in the face.
It even plays on how there's this mentality that some people have that rap music basically is not music. You know, there's this kind of like
repeated hook.
Exactly, and how the lyrics of rap songs are meaningless.
On a bigger scale, this movie really takes a stab at corporations, at slavery, at exploiting workers, at social media.
Slave labor.
Yes, there's so much that's put under the microscope in this movie in such an exaggerated way. I know we keep saying that word, but that's basically what it is.
But that's one of the big points of this movie, is exploitation of slave laborers, and that is a nice segue into how this movie is also brimming with symbolism and metaphors, and unfortunately we can't really talk about some of the really great ones in the movie, because, you know, it involves one of the greatest twists.
It's a crazy twist.
There is a crazy twist.
It is one of the craziest twists I've ever seen. Maybe not the cleverest, but one of the craziest ones I've ever seen. I couldn't believe it. I was like, wait a minute, what?
Which brings me back to how this movie could have been directed by David Lynch, who, you know, directed movies like Mulholland Drive and Blue Velvet, or movies that were even written by Charlie Kaufman, who wrote Being John Malkovich. It's that type of magical realism that gets, you know, into this movie.
Yeah, and the movie starts out in a very funny fashion, but I have to admit that in the second half of the movie, it kind of got darker for me, and so you lost a lot of that humor, that kind of over-the-top humor about ideas that really kind of drew me in.
I do agree that the first half, or even a little bit more than the first half, was the stronger part of this movie.
I agree with that too.
I think that the movie loses a little bit of momentum towards the end. But that being said, this is a movie that people should not miss. You should head out to the theaters to watch this because it is so original, so different, and so relevant to society's
Absolutely.
issues.
Yep. The actor who stood out for me was easily Lakeith Stanfield, the guy who plays the main character, Cassius Green. Obviously, Green is symbolic with money, but...
And Cassius, and Detroit, and a bunch of names are symbolic,
But his acting was tremendous in this movie. You really see him go through the range of emotions. He really relays to you a character who is conflicted and caught in between the struggle of the little man and the big man.
Yeah, he shows some nice sensibilities in his role. He has a lot of range, which I really liked. And it was nice to see him in a main role, because I think for the most part he's played some supporting characters in previous works. As far as other characters that stood out, I think it's worth mentioning Tessa Thompson, who plays his love interest, Detroit.
You remember her from Thor Ragnarok?
That's right. And who basically plays a nice foil character to Cassius,
That's a good word.
Because while he is trying to climb up the corporate ladder, she is more taking the role of the starving artist, the overzealous starving artist, and she's really trying to make him see that pretending to be white is not the way to go. You have to, it's more like fight the power with her.
And again, the way they deliver her is kind of like as a caricature, as many of these characters are, just kind of like cartoon characters.
She is a caricature in the film, who also brings us to Armie Hammer.
Oh yeah,
playing the crazy CEO, the narcissistic, greedy CEO. Talk about a caricature. Talk about a caricature. Leader. He's been picking some really good roles lately, and this one is definitely a highlight in the movie. Yeah,
there's a moment where he says, I didn't tell you because I didn't want you to think I was crazy or something.
yeah, man. And you're like, this person is like, wow, unbelievable, And
as a bonus, guys, you have Steve Ewan, who is Glenn from The Walking Dead. So yes, he's alive. He actually plays a character who is starting this protest. He wants to start a union, and is a very real character. So they kind of balance these realistic characters with these over-the-top ideas. As far as any kind of engaging techniques, it's a lower budget movie, and you'll see it in a lot of the costuming and whatnot. No CGI really that I noticed, but I did like the fact that they had some creative cinematography, some visual storytelling to kind of engage the viewer more. For example, they had a scene where Cassius was going through kind of like your everyday motions, but as he's going through it, it shows the environment going from poor to something else.
There are some nice transitions throughout, and I especially love the way that they used music in this movie. A lot of the times the music felt like it was like almost like sweat inducing, and it caused you like some anxiety, and I think that was done on purpose to add an element of suspense to a film that sometimes can feel frustrating because of the themes, the political themes in the movie. So I thought that was good, and it added, again, you mentioned the costume and the lack of CGI, but there was some really nice makeup elements in this movie. When you watch the movie, you'll know exactly what we're talking about, which adds to the magical realism aspects of the film.
So this time around, guys, we're going to go ahead and replace our grades rating with the real ratings. When I say real ratings, I mean like the little movie reels, because after all, we are trying to give real takes on movies here. Like I said earlier, I had no idea that this movie was going to be what it became. I was pleasantly surprised about all the different social aspects that were explored here, and how it just showed how society is just kind of messed up.
The trailers did fool us.
Yeah. So when I balanced that with the fact that I thought the movie really got a little too dark at the end, and that overall they tried to pack way too many themes and messages in there, I give this movie 4 reels out of 5.
Okay, all right. So that would be equivalent, I guess, to what as far as a grade?
Maybe like an A minus.
Like an A minus? Okay, all right. So for me, this is movie magic at its best. This is why people should go to the movies. This is one of the most biggest surprises of the year. You should definitely go out and see it. Yes, it does lose some momentum. It does get darker. And, yes, I think that the movie packs a wallop of things to think about. I mean, you're going to come out of this movie like with so many many ideas, but I just love the fact that they use the satire, the comedy. You know, this movie had me laughing a lot of times.
Oh, yeah.
To give you some really insightful messages about society, and I just loved it. I'm gonna give it 4.5 reels, so a little bit more than 4.5 reels. Yeah.
Yeah, it does have strong messages for sure, so I can totally see where you're going with that.
Yeah.
Well, that does it for us, guys. Don't forget, as always, follow us on Stardust. I am LJ5625, and you are?
And I am betocukoo.
And as always, guys, hey, give us some comments below so we can have a conversation. Let us know if, when you watch this, if your brain was just as fried as ours.
Man, yeah, this was like, again, like a crazy trip. Really want to know what you guys think. Of course, if you like our videos, hit that subscribe button and also that bell button as well so you can get those instant notifications. Again, thank you for watching Real Screeners, where we give you real takes on movies.
Yep. Peace.
Oh man, this movie takes you on a wild ride that doesn't let up, man.
I was doing this to my nose.
Oh.
I was just like,
Stop picking your nose.
No, my nose was itching.
Oh, okay.
I was like,
okay.
Damn it. Okay, here we go.